In order to talk about this singer that I will be discussing for this video, I first have to talk about one of my favorite directors, just so that this whole video sort of makes sense. So there is this filmmaker that I am like a total fan of, but I don't consider him to be like everybody's mainstream taste. I mean, he's not really. Most of his movies are not exactly for the squeamish, if you know what I mean. Like they're not for the faint of heart. Like this director, David Lynch, he's made a ton of movies that are pretty awesome. Like most of them are like a combination of like sort of like mystery and film noir with just like a hint of surrealism in the mix. Like his films are just completely out of this world. Like Mulholland Drive, that is like that film has like art house written all over it. I mean, fucking Lost Highway. Everybody knows that film from. Well, actually, most people are familiar with that movie because of the song "Perfect Drug" by Nine Inch Nails, which appears on the soundtrack to that movie, and that's exactly what that song is popular for that film. And Dune was a great film. Wild at Heart. There's a few films that I'm still on the lookout, from him, and because like I said, I am a fan of him, but they're not for like I said, they're not too many of his movies are like for everyone. Like they will probably not pay full attention to what is actually going on, or they may just be spooked by like shit that they've never seen in like mainstream movies. See, I don't care for too much mainstream movies. I'm mostly like an art house kind of guy, but I do like my guilty pleasures. I mean, but one specific movie that I consider his most twisted of all time is Blue Velvet. This film was very controversial, when it came out in 1986. As a matter of fact, it is part of the Premiere Magazine voted this film as one of the 25 most dangerous movies, which is a list of movies that don't that like did not follow by mainstream Hollywood standards and were considered controversial upon its release due to their graphic content. And this movies like Taxi Driver and Reservoir Dogs and Clockwork Orange, three of my favorite movies. There was also The Sweet Hereafter, a Canadian film, and you could look it up on Google. You can look up 25 most dangerous movies, and it should have like a site where you can look at the list. There's other movies like Dead Ringers and Bonnie and Clyde and Once Upon a Time in the West. Those movies are on it, and but this particular movie, I would say it was controversial because of its graphic sexual content and like scenes of rape that were pretty gruesome to watch. And and just a bunch of twists and turns. The basic plot to this movie is about a like a 20 something young man who's trying to figure out who like meets a singer who is actually under the control of a sadistic pimp named Frank Booth, played by Dennis Hopper. He is a total piece of shit in that film, but that's actually his most that in my opinion that is probably his most memorable role as Frank Booth, and he's like one of the sickest motherfuckers in cinema that you would ever see. But anyway, so this movie, like most of the David Lynch movies, he's collaborated with you know this composer named Angelo Badalamenti. I think that's how you pronounce it. I think it's on the back. Yeah, Badalamenti. Yeah, I pronounced it right. But anyway, so most of his movies, he collaborates with Angelo Badalamenti, and but for like along with Angelo, he's also collaborated with this singer named Julee Cruise. She Julee Cruise is as a matter of fact, here's the this is the album she made. This is actually her first album she made called Floating into the Night. Some of her songs on this album actually appear in David Lynch's earlier projects. The song, I think, Falling, which is track number 2, the that was actually used for as the theme song to David Lynch's show Twin Peaks, which is a crazy fucking show. That's another show. That's another David Lynch project that also has Kyle MacLachlan. He plays Jeffrey Beaumont in Blue Velvet, and I'm using this particular singer as an example because her song "Mysteries of Love" appears in a very important scene in Blue Velvet. I'm not going to say what the scene is. For those of you who have not seen Blue Velvet, I want you to watch it for yourself and see what you think. And so this singer Julee Cruise, she's kind of a combination between dream pop, kind of similar to like dream pop, kind of like earlier, kind of like sort of earlier. She almost sounds like a early '80s Lana Del Rey or other singers like her, and this particular album that Julee Cruise has made is amazing. Like it is so like very dreamy, or like I said, it's a combination of dream pop and like modern jazz. On for the music of Blue Velvet, the soundtrack album contains like the score, the original score by Angelo Badalamenti, as well as certain like pop songs from like of course there was that song Blue Velvet by I think Bobby Vinton made that song, also as well as Roy Orbison's In Dreams. That song appears in that film as well and on that soundtrack album. But the song Floating in no Mysteries of Love was actually written for this film, and it has like this album was released in 1989, but the movie was released in 1986. So like a few years after Blue Velvet's release, Julee Cruise made her debut album, uh, like I said, Floating into the Night, and she put that song Mysteries of Love on this album, as well as Floating and Falling. Floating is actually track number 1, but that's still a good song. Pretty much the entire album is excellent. I love Julee Cruise. I think that her vocals, the melody of her music is just absolutely beautiful. It's especially good to play at night, especially like in the middle of the night. If you have like a shit night's sleep, you can like put this on like your stereo, or if you have like one of those old CD players, or if you have like one of her albums on your iPod, you could just put your headphones on, lay back on your bed and play the entire album, or and just shut your eyes and because like the sound, the melody is like absolutely relaxing to listen to. I mean, I like to listen to this kind of shit any day, but this particular album is good to listen to when you have a shit night's sleep, when you have like trouble, catching the Z's and whatnot. But anyway, so yeah, she's kind of like a little bit like Cocteau Twins, and she's also kind of like this other band that I really like called This Mortal Coil. As a matter of fact, one of this Mortal Coil song was supposed to be in this film in Blue Velvet, but they decided to use one of Julee Cruise's songs instead. I'm not sure why. They didn't really say why, but you know, either way, I mean, I still enjoy this, and you know, and I do like you know, Falling. I do like the theme song to Twin Peaks. You know, like I said, I totally recommend this album. I've heard of Julee Cruise a long time ago, but I didn't know that she was like around for that long. I'm not sure if she's doing any more albums anymore, but I mean, she hasn't been heard from for years, but I can tell you that you know, Falling is actually was actually used for the for the reboot of Twin Peaks. You know, for the third season, which came out just a few years ago, and and so yeah, I if you're like into like you know, that dream pop kind of shit, and like you just want like something relaxing to listen to on such like a, you know, on like, especially on such like a cool night, like a cool spring night, I would put this one on if you have this album. If you come across this album, see, I found this album at Goodwill, you know, a few years ago, and I recognized the title of the singer because she's been around for a while, but like I said, I don't know if she's around still, but like, this is basically her most critically acclaimed album, and I would say that this is probably, I mean, this is the only album. This is literally the only album I have of her. But I mean, I would still actually like to, you know, find some more albums from her, because this album, like I said, is awesome. And if you come across this album, I strongly recommend it. And if you come across any David Lynch movies, I would recommend that as well. Although I'm not sure about your, you know, your high level of tolerance for, you know, for that kind of shit, for any like surrealism type movies. Like I said, I like movies with a lot of twists, and you know, and you can't get much more twisted than Blue Velvet. So, like I said, if you come across this, I'd pick this one up and just put it on your stereo or computer and just listen to the whole album and see what you think. So, Julee Cruise, her album Floating Into the Night, released in 1989 through Warner Brothers Records. Thanks for watching.